I'll just do it. Sorry.
I feel like if you try, I feel like I'd find one.
All right. You guys, attention, please. We're ready.
In music, there are many great artists out there. And throughout history, there have been great bands, such as the Rolling Stones, Queen, Led Zeppelin, The Who. Even new bands and recent bands like Oasis, Coldplay, Imagine Dragons, Panic at the Disco are basically defining the music genre. However, if there is one band that defines the word band, it would be four guys from Liverpool, England. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. They became the Beatles. Here's why they're the greatest rock band and artists of all time. They tried many music genres. They did rock and roll, pop, psychedelic rock, Indian music, classical music. They've basically explored every music genre there is. And also, they basically, each album they released, these are all their albums, each album they released in their 8-year, 7-year period was a progression. Their first album, Please Please Me, basically just had more rock and roll covers than original material. Then the second album, With the Beatles, had more originals and rock and roll stuff. The third album, Hard Day's Night, and the soundtrack to their movie, they wrote all the material off that album. The fourth album, Beatles for Sale, had some folk into it, folk rock acoustic. And 2 albums later with Rubber Soul, they basically added Indian music, psychedelic, early psychedelic rock pop, and soul to it. 2 albums, they progressed with this with Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, The White Album, Abbey Road, and so on. They basically exceeded every music barrier that was common in the music industry at that time. Next slide. All of them were songwriters. Even John Lennon and Paul McCartney are often considered to be the greatest songwriting duo of all time. But today, a lot of times the music's written by other people, but they all wrote their songs. George even wrote songs, Ringo wrote songs. Basically, yeah. So in any ways, they also sang. There wasn't just one member of the band singing. Like, John would sing songs like A Hard Day's Night, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Cross the Universe. Paul sang songs like Yesterday, Let It Be. George sang Here Comes the Sun. Ringo sang Octopus's Garden, Yellow Submarine. All of them just sang on the tracks on each album. Well, sometimes. Ringo got cut sometimes.
Or Ringo.
Yeah. And so, according to Intertales.com, there were not just 1 or 2, there was 4 songwriters, which many of their songs are considered one of the greatest songs in history. Next slide. They influenced how rock concerts would be in the future, and were one of the first bands to have a stadium concert. In August of 1965, they performed at Chase Stadium, New York City, with a record-breaking at that time of 55,600 people. It was sold out in 17 minutes, according to Ledger Note. 17 minutes is kind of unheard of today, but back then, they were so big, it was literally Beatlemania. Every girl was just basically all over them, mobbing them, just wanting just a piece of hair from the Beatles. Their mop tops. And also, they were able to beat their competition and maintain their throne on the charts, such as the Rolling Stones, The Who, not on there, Bob Dylan, Led Zeppelin, and Cream. These bands and artists could have easily have beaten the Beatles and taken the top spot. But they were so innovative and didn't want to sound like the rest of those groups and made it their own style that made them still number 1. According to Ledger Note, the Beatles have sold over 279.8 million records worldwide. However, some vary. Some ranging around 500 million to 800 million worldwide, making them not just the best-selling band of all time, but the best-selling music act of all time. from 1962 to 1970, the Beatles achieved 21 US #1 singles in the United States in just 8 years. For most bands and artists, that literally takes like 20 or 30 years. But the Beatles just accomplished all of this in their recording career, 8 years. The most out of any artist. Let's stay there. And according to Billboard.com, the Beatles spent 132 weeks at #1, and according to Spotify, have 1.7 billion streams on music platforms. They also, in 1964, they were the first band in Music Act to have all the Billboard Hot 100 top 5 songs be by them, which were Can't Buy Me Love, Twist and Shout, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and Please Please Me. According to Stacker.com, the top 50 most covered songs are Beatles songs, with #1 being Yesterday, being the most covered song of all time, according to Guinness Book of World Records. In conclusion, the Beatles, after 51 years since they split, continue to dominate the music industry and hold the title as the greatest band of all time. Thank you.
I actually realized when this was up here, the Yellow Submarine album cover, the Beastie Boys must have had an influence because Hello Nasty looks just like that. I was like, oh.